podcast with all things short-term rentals, revenue streams, and helping you navigate your career, real estate, and your busiest and most wonderful seasons of life. So grab your coffee, get comfortable as you get ready to learn and grow with me. This is the Luxury Rental Doctor Podcast. Welcome everyone to another Luxury Rental Doctor Podcast where we help busy professionals just like you enhance your income, achieve a better work-life harmony, and it is through real estate investing. I'm your host, Dr. Rachel Gainsborough, and today we have an excited episode lined up. As a matter of fact, in the green room, we started talking about the content for today, and I said, wait, pause, we got to get this on recording. I want this to be as conversational as ever. We have an amazing member from our community, Andreen. She has been investing since 1997. And what I told Andreen was, you know what, this is such an important conversation because Andreen is playing in a big boys world, even in her career and as well as with real estate. And so I'm just so blessed to have her as a part of the community. Andreen, I would love you to just dive in and tell me exactly what you were sharing in the green room. Because when I told you, Andreen, you've been playing in a world where with your career, it's been very challenging. And I want you to just dive in and share your story.
Essentially, what I started to say is that I have been flipping homes since 2013. And when I got in, I started with a franchise that they don't really teach you, but they give you some starting steps and whatever.
Okay.
But I owned my own franchise, and around me, all my counterparts were men. Yeah. And there were women there, but they're the wives of the franchisees. Yeah, so they sit in the office and they do the administrative paperwork. They prepare comps for when their husbands go out on appointments to see the houses and make offers and inspect and come up with rehab numbers. And I'm the only female in the group, just, doing my thing. And that's it. And I think even to this day, I don't know how many women, I'm sure there are a lot more women now than they were in the past. But when I left this franchise years ago, I actually sold my franchise to a female. I don't know how she did. I never followed up. But just a lot of majority of men, along with their wives as their partners, administrative assistants. I'm not an administrative assistant kind of girl, so that's it.
And you're right, Andreen, even in healthcare, like when I'm in the hospital and I'm interacting with a patient and it's, hey nurse, no, it's called doctor. Or, when people expect you to be one thing because of what they're seeing on the exterior. So it's really powerful when I see powerful women who essentially took a bet on themselves. And so you were working a full-time 9 to 5, a big girl job, right? Could you tell us a little bit about that background piece? Because we have a lot of ER docs who are in here who have probably interacted with you or know people who've interacted with you and your team.
Yeah, so prior to doing this real estate investing, which I truly love, I work with the New York City Fire Department, and
another big boy game, right?
Yeah, a big boy game. And I will tell you that I retired as a captain on the emergency
medical service. A captain, guys.
So
for those sitting in the back, come back to me. A captain.
Yeah. And so in the New York City Fire Department, you have the fire side, which is they deal with fire suppression and all of that stuff. And then you have the emergency medical service portion. So my certification was as a paramedic, but you have the ranks. So I'm laughing because I remember when I was promoted to captain at that point, there was, I think, probably one female captain of color that had come and gone before me, and then I became the first one after that period of time. And I remember going on assignments where, as the highest ranking officer, my counterpart would have been like a fire chief, male. It's a male-dominated field, even on the emergency medical service portion. at that point. And I remember going to the scene of assignments, especially one I recall the most, where I had a lieutenant that was, I am his superior, and the fire chief went over to him to like on the mass casualty incident is what that where we would do those multiple responses, and he went over to him and interacting with him instead of interacting with me, and my lieutenant told him, no, that's the boss. Yeah. She's in charge. And he was like, a girl? Yeah, the girl is in charge. So I've been from that world, and that's what it is. You just have to just put your foot down and make waves and let them know that you're not here to play, you're in charge. And that's the field I was in, just operating among people who didn't necessarily knew that I belonged. So, yeah.
And so it wasn't foreign to you, because one thing that we face with real estate, say I'm speaking with a contractor, someone who have to redo my floors, or someone who is an inspector, the assumption, like you said, is that it's the male. My husband will join me on some of these excursions. He has no idea what's happening, but they all want to talk to him. I don't know any of those words. Talk to my wife. Yeah. But they assume he's the one behind the real estate investing strategy. So for you, going into fixing and flipping was not foreign. So I imagine you dealt with that a lot, like contractors who would want to pull a fast one over you, assuming that you didn't know what you were talking about.
I've had my share. I've had my share, and I will run circles around them, and you gotta go. But yes, it's always the case, and they think they know until they know. Listen, I'm not playing with you. I'm the one in charge. And in my flipping business, so I had one company by myself, and then I had a guy that joined at the same time with me, and he had his own company, and then we partnered on a third company, and I will even tell him I'll run circles around him. So I remember when I first came in, because he had told me back then when we first started, oh, you're never going to buy houses, because it involves, going on appointments, going in alone, going in to meet people, and doing all the inspection and calculating. You have to know what the rehab costs will be, because you're going to make an offer in a home. And it's large numbers. You could be spending over $100,000 or whatever, and you don't want to make those mistakes by giving someone an offer that you're going to lose money on at the end of the day. But that's what he had said to me, and I said, okay, we're going to see. We'll see. And eventually, I became the buyer for our company. Because I tell him I'm the best buyer in this company. I know how to negotiate. I know how to do all the stuff. And dealing with the contractors, same thing. They all know. At the end of the day, I'm writing you a check. It's not my partner. It's me. So you better make sure you're doing the stuff correctly, or else it's going to be an issue.
And that's what I love about you. Every time we connect and we're looking at property, you have a keen eye for the quality of work. And so all of those skill sets, you've really built it. I was listening to Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, last week. You know what she said? She said that women were not able to open a business credit card, or I think it was a business credit loan, up until 1984.
Yeah. You weren't even, I think my daughter was saying someplace, you weren't even able to open a bank account, I think, without your husband's permission. Yeah. We're not going back there.
No, we're not going back there. We're not going back there. And it's powerful stories like yours, Andreen. And that's what I told you in the beginning. It's just, I need our hardworking women doctors, who are some of the smartest people in the world, to have that confidence to know, hey, listen, yes, these are challenges. These are things that you will navigate throughout the process, but you're not one trick pony. If you can go through medical school, and if you can make it, you can acquire the skills, acquire the stamina, the fortitude to say yes is yes and no is no. And it's when you, like you said, at least with the franchise, you started to get a little bit of a framework but you partner with those who are doing it at that level and those who care, community like yours, where we've got each other's backs. I think that's oh so very important. Audrina, what I think is interesting about your story is you started off on the multifamily side and then you transitioned into short-term rental investing. And since our show is about short-term and mid-term rentals, I would love us to dive right in there. What was it that made you think, you know what? I want a property that's more of a lifestyle property, a short-term rental. What was the thing that moved you into that direction?
So I first bought my home in 2005, and so I had gone down to Disney for a vacation with my family, and we stayed in a hotel, and I was all over the place, and I was like, you know what, when I went there, I want to buy a house here. I'm going to do a short-term rental. Just popped out of air. This is how long I started, and I remember speaking to the first realtor. And at that point, he told me that, oh, no, you shouldn't do it because you're going to lose money. You're not going to make money on doing this. And I'm one that, you know, if I feel headstrong about something, I'm going to do my research. I'll do my own due diligence. I'm going to make my mistakes. And the mistakes it's going to be on me. You tell me that, and I still try it, and I don't do well. Okay, you told me, but I took a chance because I believe in no risk, no gain, and I don't always take someone's no as my no. I'm gonna pursue what I want and find out myself. So he told me that, and I was like, yeah, okay, goodbye. And I went ahead and I bought. I had a friend, and she found this community. It was being new. It's a brand new community with a new build, all new build, and she bought a house, and she had her mom buy a house, and I bought one in that community. So I got to go through the process of this new build, and just exciting and all of that. So I've been doing
what type of property is it? A single family home? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms?
It's a single family, 7-bedroom home with 4.5 bathrooms.
What was the purchase price?
At the time, it was $550,000,
nice,
including closing costs.
Fantastic.
And so I lived through where 2008 crashed. The prices went down to half, but it's okay.
Wow.
I believe, yeah.
So this is fantastic conversation, because I know we have another property under contract, and we're going to talk about that shortly. Yeah. So you lived through that. So what made you hold on, Dream, and not just sell?
Hold on, because I was still able to make my mortgage payments. I was never late. I did have losses, but I would say they're more like paper losses. And I had tried to modify get a loan modification, and they were like, no, you can't get a modification because you're not late, you're not behind on your payments. So I just held on. And to me, as long as I was able to make my payments and I'm still getting income, I was okay with that, because I wasn't going to wreck my credit, because I knew that real estate it's my jam. Yeah. I love it. I want to continue to do so. Yeah, during that time, I also had other long-term rentals. Yes. When the prices went down for the homes, the rents didn't go down, and I was still, I
plugging
was
away.
Not challenged. I was plugging away.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I love that.
Yeah.
So, Andreen, I want to dive deeper into that deal, but before I do, it just teed up for me. Everyone who's saying interest rates are too high, I'm going to hold off. There's no inventory, I'm going to hold off. Like, you've been in this game longer than me, so I'm just so grateful that you're here sharing with us. But haven't we seen like these ebbs and flows that are occurring in real estate, and still I think real estate prevails?
It does, and I'm just going to share some exciting stories. So I know when interest rates, my partner and I, when I say my partner and I, my business partner, that we do the flips together, our views are very different. I see the glass half full. He's half empty, no matter what he wants to say anything. But he was like, oh my God, the interest rates, nobody's going to buy houses, and saying all of that stuff. And I said, when he started to say that, and it's been probably over a year or whatever, I just looked up at the historical rates of the interest rates. And I said, you know what? In the 80s, when Reagan was in office, we had double-digit interest rates, and people still bought homes. And I said, I remember when I was buying my very first home, which is the one in 1997. I wanted to buy a home because I believe I wanted a piece of the American dream. And I still do believe that a lot of people want that. And it's like with the stock market and with home prices, if you go back 20 or 30 years, the price that it was 30 years ago is not the price that it is today. And it's going to, you may have some dips. There will be some ebbs and flows. But I think historically, it climbs.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not like during COVID where you're having those crazy astronomical increases, but maybe it's the 3% or the 2%, or even if it goes down, I think for me, it's going to go back up. Yeah. And so I look at it in various ways. As long as I can make my payment, I know I have that forced savings. So if the equity is not going up, I'm still saving. Yeah. I'm still having those tax breaks.
Yeah. And we're going to jump into that too in a moment. Okay, so let's talk about that first property because I like to give our members a roadmap. So what was the down payment and what kind of financing did you use for that first property, if you recall what that is right now?
I think the first short-term rental?
Yes.
I think that I did a 10% down.
Okay, fantastic.
And it was, I did it as a second loan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a second loan. Okay, so where did you come up with that 10% down? So we're thinking $500,000 property, it's about $50,000 down plus some closing costs. Where do you come up with $50K thereabouts?
My real estate.
Real estate.
My real estate, you know. So I have the rentals, and I typically, because I was always working full time when I was doing the real estate on the side. My very first home, I bought a 2-family home. I ended up finishing the basement. I rented out the basement. I rented out, the first floor was rented. So out of my pocket was almost nothing. So when I had the other rentals on the side, whatever that money was, the net at the end of the month, I was never touching that money. So as it builds, as it saves, and not only that, I was always refinancing and pulling cash. And so I would do that and buy my next property. That's essentially what I did. Refinance, buy a next property. Refinance, buy. The income, save, and then just put that towards whatever, because my expenses were very low.
Okay, so I love this conversation. So you were piling up cash from anything above whatever was coming into the household, because you said you kept your full-time job for a while. And I really believe that the 9 to 5 is an advantage and not necessarily a hindrance, especially when you're starting out. You have a good work history. You are now eligible for some better terms and better loans than if you are an entrepreneur that you just jumped off and started something a month ago. Like, they want to see a work history. So that's very important. Did you, over the course of the last few years, as you continue to invest in your short-term rental investing, did you face any financing challenges? Because we get a lot of questions. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to have a down payment. I don't know if this loan's going to go through. Anything like that that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
So I really did not.
That's
so
good.
I bought 2 additional short-term rentals after doing a 1031 exchange last year.
Okay, so let's talk about that also. That's another financing strategy, right? So you first discussed the refinance. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Give us a little bit more of a definition for a refinance for those who didn't even think about that, or they don't even know. People are sitting on hidden money, Andreen, and they don't know. So let's talk about the refinance.
So I like to have my money working for me. So
Yeah.
of course, like we discussed, when you're dealing with real estate, your hope, and for the most part, there's appreciation.
Yeah.
And there's appreciation every year. So as you're paying down that mortgage each month, there's a portion that's going to go towards a principal. It may not be huge in the beginning, but it's going to lower what your balance is. And then in addition to that, you have the appreciation with whatever percentage. So at some point, what you owe and what the property is worth, there's going to be some equity, and that's your money that's in there.
Give me an
So
example. Give me an example of a property you had that had some equity and you pulled it out. Give us exact, like, estimated numbers to give our
Okay.
audience an idea of what that could look like.
Okay, so I don't remember exact numbers,
Not
but I'll
exact,
give you
but-
an example.
Yeah.
First property, I bought it in 1990. I'm sorry, I told you 97. It was at the end of 1996, and I bought it for $249,000.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember at what point I refinanced that. This property right now is probably worth $1 million, but and that was in 1997, 1996, right?
Right.
So during the time, I think I probably refinanced that property, meaning that I went back to the bank, whatever
Yeah.
the interest rate or whatever. I went to the bank. I said to them, "Hey, I want to borrow against the equity. I want to refinance." And so, if the property is worth, you purchase it for $249, and now it's worth $500,000. The bank will allow you to borrow. I think at the point it could be
Like up to 80% or so.
Yeah, 80%. So
That's
then
nice.
you have that cash in between that
Yeah.
you could not take it, but I took my cash. And then when you take the cash, then from there, your payment, it may go up some, but just remember, rents through the years are also going up. Like, I know that there are landlords that would say, "Oh, I don't raise the rent on tenants, blah, blah, blah," but I don't do that. It's a business for me, and I think it's a disservice for tenants not to raise the rents because they can't rent when it comes time to leave. So you're taking the money that you have a higher loan now, but your rents are probably more.
Yeah.
And then I take that money and I go buy something else. So if I took 100,000 or 50,000 or whatever, that's my down payment for something else.
I love that.
So then, you have that new property that you're getting that income and that also appreciating, and rents are going up in the meantime because most likely they're not going the other way.
So that particular property, Andreen, just to get the wheels turning, is it a property that you were living in when you took out the cash out, or was it a property you ended up renting during that time?
No, that property that I mentioned I was living there.
Nice.
I was living there and I had 2 extra incomes
Nice.
from the rents. But I've also had other properties that I was not living in that were rentals, and I borrowed from those and I took the money and I kept buying.
Yeah.
So I've done that several times.
And you mentioned also you had a finished basement that you were renting out. Was it a property that you were living in with that finished basement?
It was a property that I was living in at the time, my
Yeah.
very first home. And yes, the basement at the time was not legal, but I did finish it. However, years after, when I moved, I converted that home was a 2-family. I converted it from a 2 to a 4-family.
Gotcha.
And then made it 4 legal rents.
That's awesome. So my question to you is, that is something we call a house hack. And I think if I had known that strategy when I first had graduated, that would have saved me a lot of heartache with paying off $500,000 in student loan debt. So for those of you who are listening, house hacks are definitely an option. And I advocate that everyone figure out how to purchase in a market where you're able to do that house hack, because that rent could be enough to pay your mortgage. And now you just focus on the student loans and trying to get your finances in order. So I mentioned this to someone, Andreen, who was in dire straits. And I said, is there anything you can do? It was a marriage that was breaking up, and she wasn't sure how they were going to do. I said, can you do a house hack to maybe help out a little bit? And the first bit of pushback that I get is, oh, you want us to get murdered? I'm like, come on, be for real right now. And I want us to get out of that victim mentality. We're not going to let a mass murderer into our home. So what do you say to the person whose house hacks will get me murdered? No, I know we're not living in a perfect world, but there are vetting processes, wouldn't you say?
I would say they're vetting processes. But so in my situation in that basement, they were all
separate
entrances.
entrance.
They weren't living there. And
okay, so let's talk about separate entrance, guys. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about like a separate living quarters, separate entrance, almost like living in an apartment, right?
It's an apartment. It was a full apartment, not in my apartment. And I understand sometimes you have to do that. But I will tell you, and I will always credit a friend of mine. Her mother was in real estate and she had some properties. And when I was first looking, I wanted that dream single family home. I didn't want tenants, and I wanted to live out in New Jersey where I currently reside, or out in Long Island in a single family home. But the struggle at that time for me would have been, how am I going to manage with my daughter? My husband and I work different shifts. We would have to then put her with a sitter or something like that, something that she was not accustomed to. And so my friend said, Andreen, don't buy a single family home out in New Jersey or in Long Island. Buy a 2-family home in Brooklyn where I lived. And I will tell you, that lady, I never forget that. That was the best advice anyone has ever. It was just the best, because you get that extra rent. So maybe you don't like having a tenant above you, below you, whatever, but it's just a sacrifice that you make. And when you think about these sacrifices, sacrifice for your family, sacrifice for your children. Because
it doesn't have to be long term, right, Andreen?
No.
But when you graduate with $500,000 in student loan debt or $300,000 student loan debt, it's a crisis situation. I'm not going to pretend like it's okay. It's not. Yeah. And to get some money coming in to cover your rent and cover your mortgage is so helpful. It's almost like a relief, because help is not on the way. You have to figure these things out.
I'm telling you, it was huge.
Yeah.
It really,
you got the bug. You got the bug. You're like,
set me up. Yeah. It really did set me up, because from that, I'm not taking real money out of my pocket. I'm working full time. My husband is working. The mortgage is covered except for $400. And from that, you're able to put more money towards, whether it's student loans, whatever it is.
Childcare costs are high now.
Yeah. So it really set me up. And then being able to borrow, put down in another home, borrow from that home, put down in another home.
I love that.
I just think it's huge.
I love that. Yeah. I want to take us back to that first property one more time. And I know we went back and forth. So once you purchased that first property, you used like a 10% down. You had your extra revenue coming in from your rentals, helping to come up with that 10% down. What was that setup looking like for you? You had to get furniture. Were there any renovations that are needed?
So it's brand new construction.
Love that.
And which I picked out whatever things I was able to pick out, with the builder. And then, of course, it was in Florida. I lived in New Jersey.
Okay.
And so just, oh my God, how am I gonna manage? Yeah, there are lots of help out there. So I hired a management company. My friend and I both found this people, and $10,000 at the time. And the builder gave a furniture package.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how many of them are doing that.
I haven't seen that one.
It was as ugly as hell, but but we made do. Yeah, so with that, and then I paid. I think at that time I gave the management company about $10,000, and they did the window treatments, and they did all sorts of decorations and the bed linens and all of that stuff. They did for me from a distance. So
nice.
that's how it was done.
And that's huge because some people say they're in a market that is not one that's going to be a good market to invest in. So investing out of state is possible, right? With a team, you can definitely hire on team. But what I love about Andreen, because I know her personally, she keeps a good eye on the team. This is not someone who sets it and forgets it. She wants to make sure she is driving profitability by the end of the year. So my next question to you, Andreen, so they set it up, you launch your property, you went through the ebbs and flows, and just last year, could you tell us a little bit about the performance of that property last year?
So that property last year, of course, after COVID or during COVID, I did really well. I made about 100, the gross was about 149, somewhere around there.
$149. This is a property you purchased for $550.
Yeah, 149,000.
Thousand. I said dollars. $149,000. This is a property you purchased for $550,000. I would say that is a huge win, and that really shows the power of short-term rental investment. This shows the power of short-term rental investing. So I'm sure those numbers exceeded what you were seeing with long-term rentals that you originally had.
For sure, it does. The short-term rental definitely is, the growth is a lot higher. The expenses are higher, and you're managing, and it's a different from managing long-term rentals, but every aspect of real estate has its own kind of thing.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
So what would you say your net cash flow just about from that property?
I would have to look. I think it was between 50 and 60.
Okay. Okay, that sounds about right. Okay. So that's fantastic. So that takes us to the part of the conversation where we want to talk more about the tax benefits associated with short-term rentals, or the potential tax benefits. So, Andreen, for those who may not be familiar, I want to talk about cost segregation studies, because at the end of the day, what I know to be true is we cannot keep giving the government and the IRS all of our hard-earned money. And the tax code is there to benefit investors like you, like I, like our listeners, aspiring investors as well. So let's talk a little bit about the cost segregation study and why you are in the midst of purchasing another short-term rental to take advantage of that for this year.
So I'm always looking for ways to decrease my tax liability, and the cost seg, I've done it for a few years since it started, to take off that big chunk of taxes that I would have given to Uncle Sam. I love him and all, but he's too much in my pocket. So I think I've not done a full study. I do a desktop for the ones that I've done, and I've done a few. And for what it costs and the benefit that it yields, it is just tremendous. So,
and about how much does it cost?
I paid for the two that I did last. I did more than two, but the two that for the short-term rentals was $825 each.
Wow, that is not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad at all. And it took off. It does take off. You have the accelerated or bonus depreciation, which it takes money off your tax liability, and then there are a few more years that some additional benefits. So I have the potential for this year, this tax year, also there's going to be a tax savings from what was left over.
I love it. I love it. And so that put you in a position this year. You're thinking of you were thinking to yourself, I need to purchase another short-term rental this year in order to make sure that I can take advantage of more of these tax savings. Because as far as we know, the short-term rental loophole is not going to be with us forever. So for this year, it's at 60%. We're hoping it goes back up to 100%. We're not exactly sure.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, you're looking at a deal right now. Do you mind sharing us the purchase price of the deal just to get the wheels turning? I want people that are thinking, yeah, Andreen bought a house 20 years ago for $550,000. None of those prices are available now. So do you mind sharing the purchase price for the property that you have under contract?
For 532,500, and it was listed for, I think, 579, 580, and I went in and I made my offer, and so I'm under contract for 532.
532. Okay, so let's talk about this. Andre, what gives you the audacity to go in and offer a less than asking price? What are some of the things, because this is going to help someone in the audience. They're taking notes right now. What are some of the things that you saw and you said, you know what, I actually think I want to offer less?
Because I look at the comps. So your asking price is your asking price. Now, when I'm the seller, my asking price is my asking price.
We're not talking about that right now.
But when I'm buying, I'm going to look at the comps. I'm like the person, hey, you just bought the house a few months ago. This is what you paid. Let me see. I told the realtor, show me the before listing. I want to see what they did. Why are they selling? What's their motivation? What are my comps telling me? Why are they asking this much? And I said, let me go in, and this is what I'm going to offer based upon the comps. And the most they could say is no.
So I want to go into the deal specifics a little bit, because that's a great conversation. I don't think we've had it on this podcast yet. So you said that, say they're selling it for $575. You happen to look on even Zillow. I know the information is published there. You can see maybe back in January, we're in July, back in January, they purchased a property for, say, $370,000. As someone who fixes and flips, you're very familiar with that upside. But what you said is you were wanting to see justification. Did they really put in $200,000 worth of work? Could you break that down for us a little bit? Because I know someone's, what?
Yeah. When I buy properties, they're 50 cents on the dollar, 60, 65, 70 cents. And then I go in and I take on a major rehab. I'm going to do everything: kitchen, bathroom, floors, roof, HVAC, everything. So I looked at what the property, I said to the agent, show me what it looks like before. I want to see the previous listing. I want to know what they did. And then I compared the pictures of the current listing to see, okay, this room right here, they didn't even paint it. This is what the floor looks like. This is, whatever. And combination of that, because I think to myself, like, I'm so bold. How can you do that when this is what you do, sister? But I said, okay, show me the comps. And the comps did not support it. And, whereas sometimes you may have a realtor that will be timid and say, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, yeah, this is my offer and these are the comps. And, don't send it to me on print, send it to me interactive so I could look through every single detail. And so that's what I did. And I looked at, did they update the kitchen, bathrooms, floors? What needs to be done in this house? Because I'm going to have to go in and do my own thing.
Yeah. And you're going to be spending to bring it up to your standard.
Yep, absolutely.
I love that. And so when you said show me the comps, in other words, for those who are not familiar with that terminology, what Andrene's looking for is the properties that are of similar size, of similar maybe year built. She wants to see, they just sold for $470. They just sold for $510. Why do you want $570 if this is where they're hovering around? This is where they're selling for. So that's a gem that I want you all to pull out of your pocket. Ask for the comps. Ask to see what those properties are selling for. And that's a negotiation chip for sure. So that's awesome.
The response that I got was, they just spent this amount of money in the house. And I said, I'm so sorry for you, because perhaps you should not have done that. You can't spend more. You're buying a house and you want to spend whatever. If the comps don't support it, don't do it. Yeah. But they did. So at
it's
the end
a
of the day, I need
act,
for the
right?
Yeah.
You want to add you want to add a little value, but you don't want to overbuild. It's like overbuilding. You don't want to be the most expensive house in the neighborhood in terms of what you're putting into it.
Yep.
Okay.
You won't get your money back.
Absolutely. I love that. So with this particular deal, Andrene, do you happen to know what your estimated savings will be tax-wise for this one that we're working on? Or did you want to share the ones from last year for the cost segregation study?
Yeah, so I don't know yet because I haven't submitted it to like my cost seg guy, but I can tell you for the ones that I did last year, one of them, I bought this house for $620. Total accelerated was $81,317. That would come off of my taxes.
Nice.
Or yeah, and then so it's broken down though. The first year, 2023 was 53,925.97. 2024 is going to be 4,108, and then it goes down until it's completed.
Okay. Okay, so, that's awesome. And so what's great about that, these are active losses that can be applied to the revenue that you generate on the rental as well as your W-2 income. So our listeners with W-2, that's why it's really important. Okay, so for this deal, Andreen, that you have under contract for $532, how do you plan on financing this property?
I'm going to do a DSCR loan.
Okay. So that is a debt service coverage ratio loan. That is more like a business purpose loan.
Yes.
What's the percentage down that you're getting for that one?
I'm doing 20%.
Okay, 20% down payment. How did you come up with the down payment?
So I just sold the property last Friday.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, I bought it a few years ago, and let me see, maybe 2017, 2018. I perhaps bought it for I don't remember, in the twos or something. I rehabbed it. It was a 3-family, and I sold it last Friday for $800,000.
$800,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we know that selling a property is a taxable, quote unquote, event. So what that means, guys, is Uncle Sam, he's got his eyes on Andreen. He's, ooh, yes, girl, let's get it together. But she is going to use a special trick to not have to pay the taxes on the upside. So how much is that upside thereabout, Andreen?
So total profit, total that so this is my partner and I walk away was about $465.
Nice.
So half of that is mine. So
nice.
My share is $232,000.
Nice.
And so I'm putting 20% down on this house. I could put the full amount down, but also for me, a part of the benefit is in doing the tax 1031 exchange. I like to grow my net worth as well. Instead of just buying the one property for so the property sold for $800,000. I could go out and buy a property for $400,000, but my choice is to buy higher. So then, at the end of the day, as I said, my net worth would be higher. I'm going to buy 2 properties instead.
Nice.
So that I'm spreading that amount over 2 properties.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good, Andrea.
Yeah.
So you could still do the 1031 exchange if you have a partner in the deal that's getting half of the proceeds?
So this is the first time that I did this. So we had to do, I'm trying to remember how it's called. So the property was deeded in an LLC that we both owned. Mm-hmm. So what we did was we moved the properties back into our each individual names.
Okay.
And then now we're splitting on what we're doing with it. And so I decided I'm going to buy 2 properties. Mm-hmm. And my partner, I don't know, he's looking to pay Uncle Sam.
Not your, not your.
Not my thing. Not my thing. Because it could be 40% of that.
I know.
Yeah.
Close that, guys. It's serious. It's like nearly half.
Yeah.
Depending on your.
Crazy talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got the first one. What I did was I knew the sale was happening. So I went out, got the property, put it on the contract, went through my inspection. I have my appraisal actually today.
Okay.
And so then from there.
Hopefully it doesn't make it. Hopefully the appraisal says it's worth 5.
I'm hoping, or else
I
I'll be
always
hustling.
love low appraisal numbers. Listen.
Yes, but I got my comps ready. I got my comps ready. Once again, that's where the comps come in.
Yep.
Because then I was like, hey, let's get these comps
Yep.
in advance. So if there are any issues, we can go back and say, no, but this is what these are, and this is why this should be the value. You can try to fight with the appraiser.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't be needed, but yeah. Back to the comps again.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. So that's really interesting. So Andreen, what you're using is something that I really believe in, and inside of our community, we talk about using a 1031 exchange. Essentially, if you sell a house and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to take that money and then buy another property, great, I'm safe. No, you can't take the funds yourself per se. You've got to go through a process and work with what's called a qualified intermediary to help to offset that whole process of you being taxed on the gains. So that's called capital gains taxes. So a very important strategy. It's a huge play. This is how the rich continue to get richer. These are the conversations that I never had at the dinner table growing up. So I'm having it with you now. You have no excuse. Now you know this. Don't ever sell a property straight out. Take the proceeds and think, you know what? I'm fine. I'm going to go ahead and reinvest it and think that Uncle Sam is not going to come for their 40 and 50%. However, when you use the power of a 1031 exchange, we're talking advanced stuff now, guys. When you use the power of a 1031 exchange, you can avoid those capital gains taxes. Again, stop letting the government pocket your hard-earned money. I'm willing to pay my fair share, but not a penny more. Okay.
I'm of the same philosophy.
I love that. Oh my goodness. So this is exciting. So Andreen, what do you intend to do in terms of the property design, the property setup? What are you budgeting around thereabout for that?
The budget is about $150,000.
Okay. That's really good.
And that, as opposed to last year where I ended up flying back and forth to Florida to slap around a contractor. I didn't actually slap him, but I wanted to. I'm hiring SDR Cribs. I'm hiring a company to do it for me, but I'm always, I have to monitor. I have to be involved in the sense that no matter who you're hiring, you have to watch them. Yeah. So 100%. That's my budget.
I love that. And let's break down the potential income for the audience. So this is a property you're purchasing for $532,000. You're going to be putting a down payment of $100,000 or so, plus closing costs. Okay. And then you're budgeting another $150,000 or so for the property design. And what I love about our STR Cribs partners is they do these really vibrant designs, which is awesome. And from there, what do you expect your monthly mortgage is going to be? What's that looking like? And let's talk about the performance that we're expecting.
It's about $3,700 to $3,900. I'm waiting for some insurance quotes.
Okay.
One broker quoted me principal, interest, taxes, insurance for $37,000. One said $39,000. I said, okay, let's get the insurance quotes because you guys are off by $200. I don't know why. So I'm waiting for that. And property, I'm looking at anywhere between $125 to $150 for the gross.
Okay.
Income.
Okay. And so about, let's say, $8,300 or so per month gross, which is not bad at all. Okay.
No, not bad at all. It'll be nice.
It's going to be really nice. Yeah. So these deals are still out there. It's very possible. And I'm just so glad that you're sharing your experience with our audience. So what would you say is a key lesson you have learned, Andreen, that you can impart on our audience? A key lesson that you've learned over the last few years investing in short-term rentals?
Let me think. It's for me, I think it's really important to be in a community to learn things. When I first started, we didn't have all the tools and stuff that I have now. There wasn't a Rachel out there, a Dr. Rachel out there. I did everything manually. So when you're in a community, and I always believe that, for any sort of investing that I'm in, even for the flip side, I was part of a community because there's so much knowledge, so much technology, so many different things out there that can make your life easier. That if you have your blinders on and you don't know what's out there, maybe the whole thought of doing that would be like so challenging, or you can't see your way through things. But there are other people out there that are smarter than you, that have different knowledge than you, that help give you information that help you to manage in your business. So that for me it's key.
Yeah.
When I need someone to lean on to say, oh my God, this situation happened, and Dr. Rachel, can't you imagine they came in here? Oh, let me pull this out of my Rolodex for you. Here it is. Bam. I just, for me, that's like the key thing, being a part of some communities. You have to be out there and be able to share information and allow other people to share information with you. So
I love it.
That's my thing.
I love it. And Andreen, I so appreciate you. You're one of the best parts of the community as well, because you're always open, like you said, and you share, and you're a go-giver, you're a giver. If there's a resource that you have access to, you're willing to share it as well. So that makes the community even better. We don't have to do this alone, guys. I know that some of us come from a background of trauma, and we have to do it ourselves, and we're going to fight. My parents didn't give me an inheritance of money. They gave me an inheritance of work ethic. And I don't know how I feel about that anymore. This work ethic inheritance is grind, right? And so we always assume we have to do it alone. So I truly believe in masterminds and being in community with like-minded individuals, people who look like me, people who've gone through it. And I often have to remind myself, hey, why don't you lean on and ask for help? So I love that. All right, so we're coming to the end of our episodes today, Andreen. I didn't pre-prep you for this, but guys, I'm trying something new. We're going to go into a rapid-fire Q&A session. Oh, God. And it's 3 questions, Andreen. I'm just going to give you a quick 3-question prep.
Okay.
The first one I'm going to ask you is, can you share a moment when you felt completely burnt out and how you overcame it? As we have a lot of burnt out medical professionals, so I'm always looking for a quick trick.
But not in the, no, I will tell you.
It doesn't have to be work related. It could
be.
No.
This is for a long-term rental in New York, where I was having issues with a boiler and issues all winter, and I was like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm done. Not with entire investing, but I'm done with this property. I'm done with New York City. I'm sick of you and your rules, New York City. You don't care about landlords and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm out. Yeah. But I didn't. Sometimes when you're in it. And yeah, I've had bad moments with tenants where I was like, oh my God, this is hard. But at the end of the day, I just feel like I'm not going to allow someone to beat me. I'm going to find ways around it. I will tell you that for me right now, I know the market in Florida is challenging, and I always try to think, okay, what am I going to do? Because I'm not just going to give up. So what am I going to do to make this work? And I'm going to try everything to make it work before I say, okay, let me move on. That's just my thought.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? That reminds me of that song.
Yep.
I love it. Okay, next question. What's a book or a resource that you feel completely changed your perspective, say on life, on real estate, on work, on parenting? What's a tip or a resource or a book that you felt has changed the game for you?
One is very hard. Many years ago, I had a book called Charles Schwab Guide to Investing, and I thought that was a really good read, because when you're in a family, like we're not taught certain things. I grew up in a household, yes, where it's the work hard mentality. It's only certain professions, and I chose to do something different from what my parents would have wanted me to do. If they, you know, if it were up to them, I would have been in medical school, you know, something like that. And I remembered as a kid, my dad owned a store, and I of the four children, I would be the only one less than 12 years old going to help him. Like, he was teaching me how to balance checkbooks and to do all of this stuff. So I always like to be thinking and reading and learning about investments when I'm on my drives to wherever I'm going on the road. I spend a lot of time listening to investing stuff or tax savings or just that kind of stuff. So that's it.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to write that book down because I don't know it yet. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I loaned it to my brother. He never gave it back. Okay.
I love that. Yeah. All right. Last but not least, what's the craziest real estate story that you've either heard of or experienced?
For me, the craziest, most exciting one was, so I bought this building, and at the time, people had the cell towers, and I always wanted to get the cell tower. And I was asking around, how can I get these cell towers on my building? How can I do this? I want to know. And I was told it wasn't possible. Then one day, a company came to me, and they're like, oh, we can put some cell towers on your building. And then they sent me the contract, and I negotiate stuff myself a lot. And they were offering me, like, I forget at the time, it was like $500 a month with no increases and nothing like that. So I said, you think I'm going to sign this and you're not offering me anything at all? Nothing? No, we're going to do something better than that. So I got them to do 3% increases. Nice. So that company contracted out the lease to Verizon. Wow. And then 2 years later, Verizon approached me and said, how would you feel about us doing an assignment? So we're going to take over from this company, and it will be Verizon on my building. Okay. So I was like, okay. Been a few years. I don't think it, they added something to the building, and I said, hey, you're going to have to pay me for that. And so my rents ended up going to $1,200 or $1,700. I think it was $1,700. And then I started having companies approach me, and they're like, hey, do you want to sell your rights to your cell towers? And I was like, yeah, what am I going to do with that? And they were talking me into selling. And I said, I'm going to sell, but what am I going to do with this money? I think at the time they offered me, it was some small amount. Maybe it was $50,000, maybe it was $80,000. They were offering me stuff. Oh, you could pay off bills. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Right. So then
that didn't excite you. Those numbers didn't excite you.
Did not excite me. Then someone came to me and said, do you know that you can 1031 exchange these cell towers? You're not selling my building. I'm going to 1031 exchange the rights to my cell towers. And then, just what? Really? That's possible? But it's not even real estate. I don't understand. So I kept going, and they kept asking me until I found a young lady, and she came to me. I said, you know what? The offers were coming all the time. And I said, you know what? If I'm going to sell, here's my number. It's $400,000. And she got me that $400,000, and I exchanged the rights to my cell towers for $400,000 from something that I did not pay for. I did not pay for those cell towers. Oh, they brought them to my building. They paid me to have this towers on my building. The rents kept going up. When I left, I was getting, when I sold them last year, $1,700 a month for these cell towers. So I didn't pay for them, and I exchanged them. Got $400,000 in a 1031 exchange and bought 2 properties.
That's wild, Andreen. Oh,
it's wild.
It's
wild.
Goodness,
I mean,
wild.
The possibilities are out there, and that's why I'm I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to give an ear. When they first told me that, I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. You're lying to me. I don't believe you. I can exchange this? Yeah, you can exchange it. And this is how you do it. Yeah, so to me, that's wild.
This is a masterclass. This is so advanced right now. This is the next level. And it shows, but what opened that door for you is the power of real estate, right? Yeah. That is the power of real estate. And that's a multiplier. This is not, they didn't take up space in your property. It's a whole different revenue stream outside of the property that turned into a nice egg that you could then reinvest in 2 more properties. Goodness gracious. This has been incredible session. Andreen, thank you so much. I have found this conversation to be so informative, so inspiring. You have inspired me today, and I know you have inspired many of our listeners. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and share it with a fellow sister dog that is fighting it out on these W2 streets. Andreen, we're going to link your website and just, people can communicate and connect with you. If anyone wants to invest with Andreen, feel free to reach out as well. Any final words, Andreen?
Yes, I just want to say one more thing, just so that people know this power right here.
Yeah.
So the $400,000 that I decided to buy 2 properties were both 1,620 and 1,625. So that 400,000 is now 1.45 million.
Goodness.
So that's the power of real estate. And that's why I don't believe, things are up and the interest rate is up. I don't want to just not buy right now, because next year and the year after, the value is there. And then you're going to say, why didn't I do it then? So that's it.
People have been waiting for a housing crash for the last 4 years. Keep waiting, right? You're going to put yourself in a position in 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Are you still going to be waiting for this housing crash that's supposedly coming? Or are you going to take action right now, today? Because there are deals today. It's possible today to do something in the current climate.
For sure.
Thank you for dropping that last gem, Andreen. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all to the moon and back. I will see you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you.